Detroit's punishing nature took its toll on the drivers last week, but Michael Broomhead's steadfast approach netted him both a pole and a victory. That sort of chutzpah could prove just as valuable here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. We'll see if he can nab another one on home soil as we get ready to watch round 10 of Flying Husky Racing, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. More commonly known as Motorsport, this place defines Canadian racing for vintage buffs. Let's head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, or as most fans know it, Mosport. This circuit to the northeast of Toronto is a rarity in the world of racing today. Safety standards and the desire for more overtaking opportunities has caused most tracks to alter their layouts over the years. But Mosport is still exactly the same footprint as it was when it was built in 1961. A mere 11 turns, most of which are high-speed sweepers, are dispersed among 2.5 miles, or just shy of 4 kilometers. The only alterations to the turns have been to the runoff areas, but otherwise the radii, camber, and elevation changes are all untouched. Because cars have continued to get faster through the passage of time, it's made this place a fearsome beast to tackle. Clayton Corner is particularly notorious. The blind crest and steep plunge combined with incredibly high speeds to create a punishing combination. Without many heavy braking zones, passing is often difficult. And other than using the slipstream up the Mario Andretti Straight, the only other option is usually Moss Corner. This double apex hairpin is named after Sir Sterling Moss for his suggestion to redesign it after he saw its initial layout. While the plateau-like middle portion and critical exit onto the backstretch certainly give it plenty of character, the heavy compression at the bottom of the hill that causes a frighteningly short braking zone makes this one not for the faint of heart. Formula One, USAC, and IMSA have all taken their turns here, but recently NASCAR has joined the fray by holding a round for the Truck Series. Old school fans can rejoice for the enduring popularity of this bastion of untouched tarmac, but any motorsports enthusiast can't help but smile at the thrill Mosport continues to provide. Well, DJ, we've hopped across the border after being on the Detroit River last week and come to Canada, but what's it going to be like in F3 cars?
Well, Joe, it's still going to be a little bit bumpy. Mosport is one of the circuits on the iRacing service that doesn't exactly have the baby bottom smooth tarmac like we see at Indianapolis. And I have to say, a lot like Detroit, passing is going to be at a little bit of a premium here. There's only a couple of good passing zones to really get into. The best is really coming off of the Mario Andretti straightaway down into the S's and into White's curve, but you've got to have a lot of commitment and really have the car well and hooked up to be able to pull off anything there. You can also potentially get a pass done going into Moss, that tricky up-handed double apex right-hander, but you have got to be absolutely surefire on the brakes to be able to do it. That is one of the most difficult corners on the iRacing service. These Formula 3s will have a lot of downforce, so they're going to be able to get through the early corners of Clayton and Quebec relatively easily, but rest assured, Motorsport is going to be a handful, and these drivers are going to have to be on their game the entire time out.
And before we get to the racing, let's talk about our sponsors, including Norsled, which is a nonprofit animal welfare organization dedicated to rescuing, rehabilitating, and finding homes for unwanted, abandoned, and abused husky dogs. Today, every Flying Husky Racing track day or car event benefits Norsled with a portion of the proceeds donated to them. Even if you can't adopt, you can still help and ensure care for these amazing animals through your support. Save a Husky. For more information, contact Todd Curtis through email at todd@flyinghusky.racing.
Flying Husky Racing is a car club based in the Pacific Northwest that delivers premium track days and car events for automotive enthusiasts. FHR is dedicated to safety, development, and building community among members and participants. Find out more on the web at flyinghusky.racing. Flying Husky Racing. Track days are the best days.
Well, today's track day is got us a little race details graphics to go over. And of course, we are in round 10 with the Dallara F3, as we have been all season. It is in the qualifying session right now, which gives them 15 minutes, everybody out at once to try and set their quickest time. Then they hop over to a 25-minute race. They do have fast repairs if they get damage, and it's probably likely today. We saw plenty of it at Detroit, which we expected, and I have to say, having run many laps around here myself, I kind of expect that a few should have some troubles, as this is a difficult one to master. But we right now have Nick Horvath actually up with the fastest provisional pole, but only about 0.8 of a second ahead of last week's winner, Michael Broomhead. We'll see if he can go that little bit faster and snatch that pole back.
Yeah, and then one of the tricky things about this circuit is there's not a lot of time to, or not a lot of area to gain up time. You spend a lot of this circuit on the power, so you've got to be very, very precise. We see Horvath here going down the Mario Andretti straightaway, going into the S's. This is one of those areas I talked about where you can potentially get an overtake done, but you can see there it's a very sweeping corner. You've really got to get it around there. Let's see how he handles whites now and makes it onto the main straight.
Quickest time for him is a 1:10.9. As he crosses a 1:11.4 is definitely not going to do it. And then we've got Andrew Hardman next in the number 11. He sits in third. Let's see if he can go any faster. He can, to a 1:11 flat. And that is just going to be less than a tenth off of Mike Broomhead. Very close to that front row.
Yeah, all three of them very, very close to one another. They're separated by less than a tenth of a second across the board, so very, very close. We watch Hardman there working his way through the right-hander of Quebec. There's Todd Curtis crossing over the line. Todd able to set a personal best time, but will stay in 8th. Here comes Harlan Goldborn coming across the line. Harlan not able to improve.
Got Doherty and Salnave next. Doherty is not going to set a quicker time, and neither is Hans, so they're going to go around yet again. The good news is the laps are relatively short here, so the drivers were able to iterate pretty quickly. As we take a look at Colander in 7th, a 1:12.3, stays a 1:12.3. He was just a few hundredths off of his fastest that time through. Let's ride on board with our pole sitter. I'm kind of curious if it's just a brush of the brakes or if it's a lift going through Clayton here.
Well, normally, Joe, you can get a little bit in that first corner. Let's see what he does. That looks like a lift to me, just over the peak of that hill. Now he's going to go all the way over to the left, get down on through the gearbox into 4th gear, let the car swing out wide, carry as much momentum as you can through Quebec. You've got to be careful here coming under the bridge. The car can bottom out here if you're not careful, and here is that fearsome Moss corner. Down onto the brakes, apply as little brake pressure as possible until you're fully slowed down, get the car down into second gear and then blast onto the straightaway. Great. Now you are able to breathe. Horvath showing us exactly how that is supposed to be doing. And if you remember, we heard him talk last week, the Canadian driver, how much he loves this circuit. So now here we go through the winding parts of the straightaway, lines up to the left side of the road and brings it into the first of the S's. Gonna peel off a little bit of speed, maybe a little bit of lift, and then just a dab of the brakes down to fourth gear, again into whites, flick it down into third. A lot of that curb coming through that final corner. I don't know if that's gonna cost him or not, and it looks like it did ever so slightly.
And as that happened, Hardman has gone to the pole by 0.08 of a second. He's just crossing yet again, but it looks like that's not going to be an improvement. But yeah, you mentioned talking to Horvath last week. He just missed out on the victory by a few seconds to Mike Broomhead. And I'm sure he'd love to try and pay that one back. Both of them wanting to win at a home circuit. Showerman, in the meantime, who sits in fourth, will stay in fourth. He did not go any quicker.
Yeah, it looked a little squirrely there coming off of White's corner, that tail trying to slide out a little bit. We're going to keep the camera on him here. Let's see how he's able to handle Quebec. Brings it in late apex. That looks like a pretty good line. That car's still looking a little bit squirrely, Joe. I just don't get the sense that Showerman has that thing fully where he wants it.
Solnave didn't improve, and neither did Broomhead. He was pulling a bit of a toe off of Hans last time by, but it didn't seem to help him enough. We're continuing to watch Showerman up the Mario Andretti straight as now we head over to our provisional pole sitter. He's not got the greatest of margins here, so he probably will want to keep trying to push and improve just in case Horvath finds something. He's not going to get any better that time, but Horvath doesn't either. In fact, it looked like an out lap for Nick.
Yeah, Nick not doing great there. We're going to check back on that lap from Showerman. Ooh, didn't take a wide line going into whites. That could cost him a little bit of time, and it didn't. About 0.03 of a second.
Personal best for him. Unfortunately, does not go higher than fourth. Todd Curtis across a 1:12.980, but that doesn't get him higher than eighth. And then you've got Goulbourne following him. Looks like that lap didn't count, so must have had an off track or something somewhere. Broomhead still behind Solnave, and considering Hans's pace, yeah, he's backing it up now. He's trying to give himself a little bit of room here as Mike Broomhead, just so that he can get a good flyer.
Well, and that's especially going to be important as Doherty crosses the line to do the same. It's especially going to be important in the first sector. There's a lot of fast sweeping corners. You'll get a lot of aero wash from that car off in front of you. Gene Hawks there crosses over the line. He's able to improve on his best time, but is not going to move up the order.
I have to admit, I'm actually relatively impressed with Hawks. He's only 5 seconds off the pole time and a second and a half away from the next car up. That's a lot closer than he's been in previous races. So we're seeing improvement out of both Gene and Hans as we ride on board with Curtis, who comes through the S's. He's going to be taking the checkered flag here.
Yeah, he is indeed. Let's see what Todd's got. Able to take a pretty good line there. Big chunk of curb on the way out of whites, but he's going to power to the line. Going to improve his lap time by about 2.5 tenths, but I don't think that's going to move him up the order at all. Showerman coming into the pits.
So not interested in trying to finish that lap. Instead, we're going to watch Doherty as he's pulled up behind Hans, and Hans is on his own flyer here, so he's not obligated to get out of the way. Unfortunately, I think this is going to kill any hopes for James. Indeed, it did. It was not a faster lap. Broomhead comes into the pits, and I think Gene Hawks might be the only one left, but nope. He's done for qualifying there, it appears. 10 cars back at it once again here in Canada, and Canadian Tire Motorsports Park will play host to round 10 at what is an incredibly fearsome track, very challenging and requires incredible commitment. We'll see how the Flying Husky drivers fare in these open wheelers. Definitely takes me back a little bit to a discussion I had with Richie Hearn, one of our commentators at one time. Gave me one of my favorite stories about this place. I asked him if he ever raced here, and he said, yeah, he did back in his former Atlantic days. I said, did you did you manage to take Clayton flat out, and how quickly did you do it? He said, well, quicker than I probably should have. I just didn't, I had more guts than sense back then. And always made me chuckle hearing him at least admit that he probably was a little bit dangerous back in his youth, and love hearing his take on what it was like coming up the IndyCar ladder back in those early 90s. As we now have the session tick over, and that gives us our starting grid. On the pole, it is going to be Andrew Hardman. Nick Horvath will be starting in second with Mike Broomhead in P3. Then it's John Showerman in fourth, followed by Nick Colander in fifth.
In sixth, it'll be James Doherty, followed by Harlan Gelborn, with Todd Curtis lining up behind them in eighth. In ninth, it'll be Hans Salnave, followed by Gene Hawks in 10th.
And as usual, we'll have a rolling start here, so the drivers will be able to try and get things up to temperature, which, as you'd expect here in Canada, it's pretty good conditions for racing in the summer. Only 87 Fahrenheit on the track surface, but how important do you think it will be trying to get tires and brakes good for those first few sweeping turns?
Oh, it's going to be very, very important, Joe. You want those tires as quickly as possible to get into that operating window, specifically going through that first corner, which we saw as we rode on board during qualifying. You kind of want to take pretty much flat out, maybe a little bit of a lift there. Same with Clayton and Quebec. The faster you can get that hooked up, the better. And I hate to say it, but watch out for a couple of drivers maybe losing a little bit of grip, trying to push a little bit too hard. That could catch somebody out through those first corners. I do imagine, though, by the time that they get to Moss, if drivers are able to keep all four tires on the tarmac here, that they will be up to speed and temperature and be just fine.
See them trying to weave and accelerate and brake just to get everything working. Love what iRacing has done with the tire model in the past year or so. The way that's really brought that into the fore of drivers' minds. The preparation needed, just like you see real drivers have to do and be concerned with on these tires. As the iRacing pace car going to take them up the Andretti straight, which isn't really all that straight, if we're honest. You can see all the little kinks as it climbs up the hill, and then they'll head through the S's and get going on a 25-minute race today.
Yeah, and it'll be a good one. And Joe, I think it's going to be a race of patience for a lot of these drivers. You don't want to try to force the issue here at Motorsport. If you do that, that's a one-way ticket off into the grass. It is much more of a good idea to just hold back and maybe try to force the driver ahead of you into an error.
If anybody can do that to Hardman, who's going to start it on the pole. Can Horvath keep from finishing second once again? Will Broomhead try to spoil it for both of them? They're now heading up to White's as the pace car peels in. Green flag is out. Oh, Hardman with a very late start. He's going to get jumped into his outside. Horvath already looking at potentially taking the lead as they plunge into the first corner. He's ahead.
Oh, and that looks like that Showerman off, and oh my goodness, we have cars off everywhere. That was Horvath.
Horvath and Showerman, where Showerman made it, but
and there goes Hardman.
Didn't. Oh no, off at Clayton, he's into the wall, so two cars already with big hits, and Broomhead inherits the lead in the first two turns.
I apologize to all of these drivers, Joe. I tried to warn them about making sure those tires are up to temperature, but the commentator's curse is strong tonight. So many accidents on this first lap, and we've got a kerfluffle going into Moss.
That was Curtis along with Showerman, it looks like, and a third person I didn't quite catch who got turned around there. As we continue to watch the battle for the lead, Broomhead now up at the top spot. Colander is promoted to second, Goldborn third, and Doherty has a huge run on Harlan, but decides not to take it into the S's.
I think that's a pretty wise opportunity. He wants to make sure that that car is fully up to operating, fighting temperature before he does anything. Very strange line there from Goldborn coming out of the S's and into Whites, but he's still going to be able to hold on a little bit of an advantage. And as this goes along, it looks like the top two are gapping themselves a little bit from P3 and P4.
How about Gene Hawks, qualified 10th, and he gets promoted to 5th on the first lap just by keeping the thing pointed forward. Hardman I'm sad to report, did have to come into the pits for repairs after making contact with the wall. It does look like we got someone continuing on who was involved in that. It looks like it's Solnave, so he's not coming into the pits. He may have avoided a lot of those incidences. Our leaders are now into Moss Corner for the second time, and it looks like the top two breaking away.
Yeah, exactly. The gap between them is under a second, but they pulled out about a 1.5 second gap back to third place. Harlan Goldborn, you can see it there as they come down Andretti. And indeed, Mike Broomhead's starting to stretch his legs a little bit, pulling that gap up to about 8.5 tenths of a second.
So Broomhead's looking quick, and last week he used that to great effect. Nobody able to touch him at Detroit. Will that leave us with a fight between Goldborn and Doherty? So, looks like James keeping right on top of him as Broomhead sets the fastest lap of the race down into the plunging Clayton corner. Looks like that car is definitely up to working temperatures now.
Yeah, I think everybody is, and I got to say James Doherty is a very, very lucky guy. He got a little bit squirrely coming through the first corner, got his right side or left side rear tire off into the grass, barely caught the car and able to keep up behind Goldborn.
I think we've got an opportunity now to check out those replays on the opening lap. Let's see which one we're going to be checking out first. So this is with Showerman, and I did happen to at least catch on this first incident with him. It looked like he just went wide.
Yeah, I think that is what happened. So let's keep an eye here. Tries to dive down, gives plenty of room to the inside, and yep, Joe, that's exactly what it is. Tires just weren't warmed up. If you've got enough heat in them, you can make that move work, but Showerman just not able to do it with the tires with where they were.
They just saw the incident with Horvath, and that's Hardman. So that's the damage to his suspension that forced him to come in. And the other one happened with Curtis. If we want to see this next incident, I think he just gets off. Oh, whoa, how did he get in that side of the grass? I've never seen someone there.
Neither have I. We're going to go on board here with Todd Curtis, see what happens. So he goes over to the right, lines up the corner. Joe, he just didn't get that apex right. The car got a little bit light, and he just completely lost control of everything.
Wow. That is a definite first. It looks like, don't need to go to it, but Gene Hawks had an off, and he is now towed to the pits. So, unfortunately, some of that good work has gone away. That's good news for Hans Solnave. He is up to 5th now.
Joe Doherty's trying to make the move on Goldborn, coming into the S's here, down to the inside. Is he going to be able to hold it off? Goldborn has him. Oh, covers it off, but very, very close. James Doherty really trying to push the issue here.
As we were on that replay, I did happen to catch him try that last lap as well. So it's not the first time, but it didn't work before. The other thing is, I've been seeing a lot of blinking from the 61, which is not going to make things fun for Goldborn.
No, it is certainly going to terrify him a little bit. And there you saw the 61 get a little bit wide coming off of Clayton with that aero wash like we talked about.
Okay, so heading down towards Moss Corner once again. Seems like he's usually quick up the Mario Andretti straight. Is it his exit? Has he just got the car trimmed out? He's much more shallow into the corner. Oh, but he's still looking great.
Yeah, Moss is a real interesting corner like that. You can actually almost keep more momentum if you carry a narrow line. It's kind of counterintuitive in the way that you have to brake. So there's Doherty. You can see there him trying to find a way by. He's going to try to the inside this time.
It's a little bit naughty there from Harlan, so almost weaving a little bit on the straight in reaction to the 61. So he's not going to be able to get it this time through. Off onto the front stretch, they get ready to start lap 6.
And here they go on it. Now, this is the part of the track as we see Michael Broomhead setting the fastest lap of the race. Once again, that gap pulling up to about 3 seconds between him and Nicholas Colander. Woo! Very, very wide line there for Doherty.
Eagle-eyed viewers may have seen that Broomhead set another fastest lap over everybody. He's pulled it out to about 2.5 seconds over the rest of the field. Colander's still giving chase, keeping him honest. If he has a mistake, he could lose that lead just as easily.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have to keep an eye on it. These guys will pounce at any mistake that any of these drivers make.
Let's not forget our pole sitter's back on track and on the lead lap. In fact, I think Hardman's going for 5th place here pretty soon.
Yeah, certainly is. He is all over the back of Hans Solnave right now. He's going to have a look coming under the bridge before they get to Moss. He's going to try a pass into Moss, Joe.
Looks like we'll get to that in a second. As we watch our leader, Mike Broomhead, I can report, though, that Hardman now up into 11th place. Or excuse me, 5th place, rather. We only have 10 cars, Joe, on this track. And then up next for him, it's going to be quite a climb. He's got to go 38 seconds up the road to get to 4th place, James Doherty.
Yeah, that's going to be a very, very hard hill to climb for him. But he is about faster by 1/10 of a second, but that's not going to be enough to be able to get all of that time back.
Yeah, certainly not. I think unless those in front of him have a major error, we're not going to be seeing him gather up another spot, which is a bit of a shame considering he took a fantastic pole here today and showed he had speed, just doesn't seem to have the race pace and the consistency to make it stick. Battle for 3rd still quite close. Doherty continuing to hound Goulbourne as we watch them come out of whites past the start-finish line.
Yeah, that battle is not going away anytime soon. They're another blank out of Doherty, but Goulbourne has just been doing a great job keeping the distance where it will through the first sector of this lap and running some very good defensive lines down the Mario Andretti straightaway to keep that number 61 behind him.
That's something we haven't talked about a lot. The difficulty in overtaking here, it seems to be playing to the 127's advantage.
Yeah, it very much is, and I have to say Doherty's doing a good job as well. He's just trying to poke his nose in. He's not being overly aggressive with anything. He's just trying to force Goulbourne into a mistake. There you see them Constantina out a little bit as they come out of Moss Corner. A little blink again there for Doherty. I think he may be a little too far back to get a full move done this time, but watch and see if he continues to try to apply pressure.
He's going to reel him in. And he's been doing this for lap after lap and just run out of straightaway. He's got to hope for a mistake or some sort of monster run, I think. And that is 2nd place in front of him. That's Colander. I think they might be catching up to Nick. Let me see the last lap time here. Oh, yeah. Goulbourne just hit an 11.9, whereas Colander was an 11.2.
Yeah, that gap's down to about 1.6 seconds, so Colander's going to have his mirrors full here if he is not careful, and that gap continues to fall. So certainly something to worry about if you are the driver of the number 3, Nicholas Colander.
Down to 1.5 seconds between them. They once again head towards Moss. Ooh, we were talking about that shallow line. Doherty definitely coming in a little wide, and unfortunately he's going to lose it on the exit, and Doherty is into the wall. How much damage does the car have? We're going to take another glance at it, see if we can suss it out.
Well, all right, there you see the wide line going under the bridge, and that narrow line like we talked about gets it down there. I think he just I put a little bit too much power into the tires. Definitely damaged the left side of that front wing. I can't tell if there's any more damage. Car doesn't appear to be crabbing, so I don't think there's much suspension damage on it.
Well, we'll watch and see if he comes in, and I can affirm he did come into the pits just now. So, Broomhead continuing to lead the way, now up to 6 seconds over Nick Colander. You know, earlier I mentioned that it'll take some serious issues for the driver's head. Well, Hardman, I think, has got another spot coming his way.
I think he very well might, though, as we continue to watch Mike Broomhead just setting the pace. There is Hardman as he comes around right now, and indeed, boop, move him up to P4.
There you go. Still 38 seconds back, though, from Goulbourne. In fact, Goulbourne has been keeping pace with Hardman down to about a 10th between them most laps. So really just looking unlikely that Andrew will be able to do much at this stage. 12 minutes left to go, 13 minutes left to go on the clock for our drivers. So we're just about at the halfway mark.
Yeah, just about that halfway mark, and we're really starting to see where this field is going to level itself out to. Hardman here as we continue to follow, 37-second gap up the road to the podium. But this is the battle we want to keep an eye on, Joe. This is Colander and Goulbourne. We marked down that Goulbourne was really able to close in. He's now got that gap down to just under a second.
Last time it was pretty comparable between them, only split by 100th, as both ran 1:11.9s. And now without the pressure behind him, I wonder if Harland is just maybe able to focus forward and run his own laps, but he goes wide at the second apex of Moss.
That's going to hurt him a little bit, but the gap holding down to about 8.5 tenths right now. Got to imagine that Goulbourne, even with that little mistake, may be getting the benefit of the draft here, but not looking like it's going to be anywhere near making a move.
As we ride on board with Harlan, coming down into the S's. I think this is going to be just a mildly quicker lap still for Harlan based on the distance I'm seeing between the cars. Colander crosses the line, hits a 11.949. Goulbourne 11.620. Yes, indeed.
Wow, that is a great lap for him. Definitely doing everything he can do to hustle that car around here.
Oh no! And he's off, and he's into the tires hard. That is definite damage worth towing for. Oh, so as hard as he was pressuring Colander, he put too much pressure on himself and has now got to come into the pits to take his spare car.
Yeah, Joe, and you were talking about whether or not you can take Clayton flat. As these tires do wear off ever so slightly, you've got to keep in mind that you're not going to have the full amount of grip that you want to have, and I think that's exactly what happened. He was just pushing a little bit too much, also got caught into the aero wash of Colander ahead of him, and that's just what sent him right off into the grass. And once you get into that grass, there's no coming back.
And this is our leader just putting a lap on Hans Solnave, who's actually moving up to 4th as he goes by the pits because of Goulbourne's incident. And Hardman, incredibly, is now on the podium again.
Well, that just goes to show, Joe, that perseverance can pay off, and it's paying off in spades for Andrew Hardman.
I said this might wind up similar to Detroit, and that seems to be coming true as we now ride on board with our third place driver, Andrew Hardman. We're down to 10 minutes left to go on the clock. Love seeing these cars get whipped around here. Oh, ooh. Is that, my goodness, that entry looked a little sketchy, but he held it through.
Well, you said it yourself, Joe. You have got to have guts to be able to tame Motorsport Park, and that is exactly what Andrew Hardman was showing right there.
What else has this done to our order? Showerman, who is a lap down, is up to 5th as well, trying to make his recovery. I wonder if he will be able to catch Hans Solnave. What's the lap times between them two? Actually, I think he will. I think John, in the number 1, might have enough time to catch up to Hans before this race is over.
Yeah, he just might. Looking at those lap times with about a 5-second difference on their last lap, I think he'll be able to pull it off.
Yeah, right now he's pacing quick enough that he should be able to at least get close to him, if not manage to overtake. This is looking very good for Mike Broomhead. Gosh, I need to double check my stats and see how many he's won so far this season. I think this will be number 4, if I'm not mistaken.
It's 3 or 4, yeah. I don't remember off the top of my head either, but that sounds right.
So just seems to be that Mike Broomhead has adapted well to these Formula 3 machines. Nick Colander about 10 seconds back from him at this stage. Wonder if Nick is also just deciding to settle in, especially seeing a couple drivers at this point come up close behind him and wreck out.
Well, I mean, he has been able to really weather the storm of anything that's gotten thrown his way, and that's really what it takes to be good around here. Just absolutely hold out. Ooh, as I believe that was Goldborn I just saw having a little bit of an off into Moss.
Oh, and Showerman's in the pits. Trying to see, this was quite a ways ago, so I don't think we'll be able to get the replay, unfortunately, but I can tell you that, yeah, he touched the grass in Quebec, nosed it into the wall, had to take another tow, unfortunately. Let's watch Collander's racing. We've been seeing how Broomhead and Hardman race. Now we're going to see how Nick does it as he gets behind Solnave.
Solnave, obviously some lap traffic, and Colander will be able to take advantage of the tow here. And you can see him feathering that throttle ever so slightly, it looked like, just trying to get the jump right. He's going to come around to the outside here, going into the S's. He's clear now, and he's got that lapped car out of the way.
So ticking one more off, and he's only got to do it for 6 more minutes. We've still got what looks like 8 cars running. I'm not sure if we'll get Showerman back. He's waiting for a tow, I think. So 8 of our 10 able to keep it up. Almost, I have to admit here, DJ, I'm a bit disappointed that Hardman had his incident early. I feel like he and Broomhead would have had an almighty fight.
Yeah, I have to agree with that, Joe. The battle of the cold tires just coming out to bite Andrew Hardman. He has really been able to set a very, very good pace here as he crosses over the line. Yeah, he was faster on that last lap than Broomhead.
And we did have another fastest lap set by Mike. The 00 has the 1:11.264 as the quickest of anybody over the course of this race. The Canadian out of White's corner and across the line yet one more time. Colander about 14 seconds back from him. Hardman last on the podium, 33 seconds back. That's effectively half a lap behind, which is why we're not anticipating him being able to catch the leaders.
Yeah, I don't think he is going to be able to come anywhere close to that. And this whole field really, really separated out at this point. The incidents across the board just biting everybody as we tick down with just over 5 minutes to go.
Hey, what's Hardman's fastest lap? Well, 1:11.5, which was his last one. What if he can maybe snatch that away from Broomhead just to give him that tiny sense of pride? Let's see what it's going to be this time as he crosses. So 1:11.6, so still about 4/10 off of Mike Broomhead's fastest lap. So we take a look at that 00. He's coming across the line now as well. And actually, he's more than half a lap behind. He's 46 seconds behind Broomhead, I should say. He's half a lap behind Colander, even. This time across 1:11.9 for Mike. Wonder if the tire's starting to go away from a few of our drivers, having abused them. The temperatures have gone up significantly. I don't think we've mentioned that. 101 Fahrenheit. Compare that to the, what, it was 84 or thereabouts during qualifying, I think?
Yeah, it was just about that. So that is very, very tough for these drivers, especially as the tires we're in. It's going to be more difficult. Focusing here, though, on Hans Solnave, putting in the drive of his life, a 4th place here. This is a great drive for the number 5 machine.
Just bring it home, Hans. Like to see him be able to net a top 5 out there in the number 5. He's got about 40 seconds over Harlan Goldborn, who's trying to play catch-up after taking another one of his spare cars. Hardman last time, a 1:11.7. Still not able to go quicker than Mike Broomhead. That's what we're watching. Salnave there out of Moss, taking plenty of that exit curbing. 112 flat now for Mike Broomhead. I know he said last week that he was just kind of trying to manage things as we got a car off. That is Gene Hawks. Didn't hit anything miraculously. Not often you see that in Clayton.
No, not at all. But yeah, there we see Broomhead, I think, definitely in management mode yet again and doing a great job.
Hollander last time by was still slower by about a second. Not sure if he had traffic or some incidents or what, but it's up to 17 seconds now between the leader and P2. Hardman still keeping steady, though, even though he hasn't been able to get close to that fastest lap that Broomhead got. He's been within 0.2 of a second for the last 4 laps.
He's running really, really good times, just doing absolutely everything he can. Once again, I gotta say, you said it yourself, Joe, so disappointing to not if he hadn't had that incident at the start. Oh, what a race this could have been.
Last time for Broomhead, a 1:11.9, also looking very, very consistent, within 0.3 of a second across the previous 5 laps for the 00, as now we ride with Hardman, who's coming up the backstretch, up the Mario Andretti straight. Really gives you a good sense of the elevation climb from on board here.
Yeah, there is a lot of good elevation that goes on over the course of this lap, and we talked about it when you're going through Clayton and in Moss, but it really makes it difficult for these drivers. You've got to be careful to minimize that rear wheel spin and make sure everything's okay.
1:11.5 that time. Very close to his fastest lap, his personal best, but Broomhead's getting a tow. I wonder if he could maybe set another fastest lap with Todd Curtis's help. And he's going to get the white flag for 1 to go on top of it.
Well, I actually think, Joe, where he's catching Curtis here, this may slow him down a little bit. We talked about that aero wash coming over Clayton. We saw what it did to some of the drivers previously. Yeah, there you can see Broomhead just taking an alternate line, trying to minimize the amount of time he's got to spend in Curtis's dirty air.
But he's only got to do it for 1 more lap, and he's still a full 18 seconds ahead of Colander. Actually, about a full second a lap faster than the number 3. Curtis doesn't want to hold him up, though. He's going to give him another lap by. So 3 laps down for the 72. Not much left of this track for Mike Broomhead to seal up yet another one as he comes up the Mario Andretti straight. Even though he did not take the pole on this, he kept it clean. He kept it on the circuit when he needed to, managed the tires, avoided the pitfalls that many others have fallen to, unfortunately, over the course of this 25-minute race. And as Michael Broomhead exits White's corner, he's going to add another to his tally with victory at his home track.
Absolutely incredible drive from Broomhead. Just flag to virtual flag there. Now we follow Nicholas Colander as he makes his way around the S's. A very good drive from him as well to come home second.
The podium are the only ones still on the lead lap here. And Hardman is just coming up the Andretti straight now. He cut this down on Colander a fair bit. It was at 38 seconds before. It's down to 26. So he was certainly pushing, trying his best to see what could come of it. Unfortunately, it was just too big of a gap, but he is going to recover to a podium here today. And that is going to take us to a break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so don't go away. Welcome back to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. We just watched round 10 of Flying Husky Racing, and Mike Broomhead got another one. This one will probably mean that much more to him, I have to imagine, as Nick Colander followed him home a full 20 seconds behind, and Andrew Hardman, who started on pole, unfortunately threw it away at the very start and had to settle for third. Hans Salnave actually had what I think might be his best finish of the season in fourth, a lap down with Harlan Goulbourne in fifth. You've got James Doherty P6 and John Showerman in seventh from there. Todd Curtis was the last to finish. Gene Hawks and Nick Horvath, unfortunately, were a DNF today. That takes us to our winner, Mike Broomhead. And Mike, we were just mentioning it, and I have to ask, this being on home soil, does this one mean all the more?
Yeah, you know what? I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously, I've done a lot of laps around this track, and in theory, I should be quite good at it, right? So, so it's glad. I'm happy that that came true, but a bit of luck along the way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about that opening lap. You put it into third. Were you disappointed with that? And then were your emotions when suddenly you come to the start and at the first lap around and you're leading?
Yeah, you know what? I was a little bit disappointed. You know what? Andrew and Nick and John, they were fast today, right? So it was going to be me trying to catch up with them mainly. And yeah, getting through all of that. I'm not sure what happened. I think there may have been netcode in there somewhere for a few, and I just sat back and just watched it and picked a spot, really.
It seemed like, much like we saw with Detroit, a lot of drivers struggled with trying to just keep the car out of the barriers here today. And I don't hold that against them. I know I've always had trouble here. How was it for you? Did it feel tough? Were you trying to keep it at 9/10, or were you just flat out?
No, I wasn't flat out. I was taking it easy after everybody had their issues early on. I don't know if the temperature is a bit hot. I mean, I think it's 40 Celsius right now, so it was a bit warm. So there's a little bit lacking of grip, so I just took it easy, just made sure I had the grip underneath me. And I mean, I've crashed here in real life, so it does hurt, and unlucky for the guys, but I came away with that one. I'm not too disappointed with it.
I don't want to fathom how hard those walls must be. Congratulations. Is there anybody you'd like to thank for this victory?
As always, Britannia, the team, everybody, they all work hard. They all strive to be better, good people. Flying Husky Racing and the guys there, Mountain Range Marketing, Elise Foundation, of course, my family, and Mimi, and you guys as well.
Well, thank you very much. That was Mike Broomhead, our winner here at Motorsport. And up next, DJ's caught up with Nick Colander.
Well, happy Tuesday to you too, Nick. Now this was a little bit of a quiet race for you, although you had a little bit of a scare at the beginning. It looked like that Harlan may have caught up to you, but talk me through that one.
Well, I mean, I just love the first lap of any race. There's so much drama. I'm not the fastest, like I never claimed to be, but I'm pretty good at avoiding accidents first lap because I'm slow, if you know what I mean. But I got real lucky through. It looked like a calm race, but the reality was Harlan and James, they put a lot of pressure on me, a lot of pressure actually. And if those two had just worked together, that would have been a different race, honestly. And I'm just thankful they were battling so much, guys.
Well, I mean, that aside, talk me through. It looked like that the track was just getting hotter and hotter over the course of the race. Was that affecting the way you were driving at all?
No, not at all. For me, racing's like 90% mental, so it was just keeping my head, hitting my points. I've been working with my Rust teammates. Shout out to Greg, Mitch, Steve, all those guys, McDonald's. They've been really working on early braking, and then coming out of the turns quicker. But the reality is just keeping my head in pressure situations and not looking at the variance too much of the time. That's something I'm personally trying to work on as well. If I focus too much on the gap getting shorter behind me, I miss out on what's in front of me. There's a saying, I think it's a book I read somewhere, and it was like, just focus on what's in front of you in racing.
serves you quite well. Can you make that one step higher at Sonoma for the finale next week?
We'll see. You know, Mike Broomhead is a guy I really admire. Appreciate him for welcoming me into this world. Shout out to Todd Curtis too. But Mike's quick. You know, I think I could get him. We'll see how work plays out this week if I got some practice time, and I'd love to put that feather in the cap of getting my Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you know what I mean.
I can understand that. Well, again, congratulations on a podium and a race well run. Was there anybody you'd like to thank for this one?
I almost want to thank you guys. I really genuinely appreciate the consistently professional broadcast. We love it. Shout out to Mike Broomhead again, Todd Curtis. Shout out to my father. He gave me the racing bug. And shout out to my wonderful, beautiful wife for supporting my amazing hobby. Appreciate you guys.
Fantastic stuff there from Nicholas Colander. And finally, we have Andrew Hardman, who started it on the pole, but had to come home in third, a little ways behind our front two. Let's start at the very beginning there, Andrew. It seemed you had a little bit of contact and a poor start, but do you think that contact affected the next corner or was that just all on you?
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say I'm really sorry to Nick. That was obviously not a good first impression in my first race in this series. So sorry to him. Yeah, the contact was I haven't looked at it, but I assume it was my fault. I just drifted over and caught him, and I think that may have given me some damage, and so made the next corner quite a bit more difficult than it should have been. But yeah, that's all on me, unfortunately. But I mean, it was consistent running through to the end, so I'm happy to pick up a third, but not the way I wanted to do it.
That's understandable. The good news is if you go back and watch the replay, it did look like there was a big snap there from Horvath. So I don't think that was totally on you in the sense of the contact. Even still, as you came back out and you started plugging away and you looked at the gap up to the next few drivers, did you just keep pushing, or was this something where you just figured, okay, let's just get to the finish and see where it puts me?
It was definitely a balance. I could see that there was some people dropping out throughout the race, so there's sort of incentive to push and catch a mistake if it happens. So I was pushing to the end, but not overdoing it to put it in the wall again.
I can understand that one. So Sonoma next round, where it's going to be a lot more tight and fiddly compared to these wide open, fast sweeping turns. Do you think you're going to like it there, or do you prefer these quicker tracks?
I'll be honest, I quite like Motorsport. I think it's one of my favorite tracks in iRacing, and Sonoma I don't really have much experience with. So it's going to be a bit of a learning curve, but I'll give it my best shot, and hopefully I can get near to the top again.
Well, congratulations on a podium, and hopefully the others will be understanding about the opening incident.
Yeah, thanks very much.
That was our third place finisher, Andrew Hardman, and I believe DJ is caught up with Todd Curtis.
I have indeed, Todd. A pretty good result for you here in 8th on one of the trickiest circuits I think you guys come to. How you feeling?
I feel like all things considered, I drove a couple of good laps. I'd like to congratulate Brumeau on the win. I think he drove so well tonight, and Nick gave him a good fight. And Andrew, welcome, came out in his first race and looked really strong up front. I think I saw some of Harlan and James, and they were looking really good, and there was a good battle going on there with Nick. And I got to say, I'm really proud of Hans, too. Even though he may have had a little something to do with that first lap or early on incident, I saw him driving really cleanly, so it was really great. And then the second incident, well, that was my fault. I just got a little target fixation following behind Gene and went off into the grass right there with him. So, I got a couple of good race laps that were faster than my best quali time. I drove some consistent laps, consistently 2 or 3 seconds slower than the leaders. But looking back, I can see some things I need to do differently. Overall, a good race. Learned a lot from it. Had a really fun time. What a great track.
So I have to ask you then, with that in mind, you're running the gambit of tracks all over like this. Do you like these kind of old school hardcore tracks? Or do you like some of the more like ultra modern ones? What do you think is suiting your style a little bit more?
I kind of like the classic ones. I learned how to drive at Sonoma, which is a pretty technical track with a lot of off-camber and elevation change. And so I've always kind of appreciated that track that really makes you work and you're constantly busy and having to think. And, it's you need to be a couple turns ahead. And if you're not, and I clearly wasn't, I'm still learning this track, and I can see doing that thing that I do. I think a lot of people do when they're learning a new track, they overbrake. And there's a ton of turns where I could be carrying a lot more rolling speed, but I'm overbraking just so I make sure I stay on track and know where I'm going. So I think, the classic tracks have that kind of nature to them. You got to get them just right. But when you do, it feels really good. It's like playing a musical instrument well or something.
I feel that one. I know the 1 or 2 laps I've actually turned correctly here at Motorsport have been reordering beyond belief. The other 105, not so much. But a little bird told me you were actually out on track last weekend. Tell me about that, man.
Oh yeah, well, Flying Husky Racing, it puts on its events every week or two, and we had a great track day out at the Ridge Motorsports Park, which is here in the Pacific Northwest, out in Shelton, Washington, near Seattle. We had a great group of cars out, street cars, race cars, even driving these Formula 3 cars out on track, testing out some new tires, and doing a little development and getting a little better as we go. So it was a really great time. It was really good preparation for getting back in the Dallara. The Formula 3 we drive there is a Lola, but there's a lot in common, and you'd think that might help me. Maybe I did better than I would have otherwise. Maybe a little more practice would have gone a long way. But yeah, that's a nice thing to kind of bring into this environment. I look forward to the next one on Thursday. We'll be back.
Best of luck to you out there, Todd, and congratulations on today. Anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to say thanks to everybody. This is a really great group. It's a fun group. We have really fun conversations during the race too, which adds an element to this, which is great. The home track advantage was, I think, a real thing tonight, but I say that now, and our next race is at Sonoma, so when they still all beat me there, we'll see who's saying what about home track. We'll see how that goes. Also, I owe a long overdue shout out to our friends up in Detroit, the folks at Cadillac who supported us through our Cadillac series a couple of weeks ago, who were just celebrating for the Detroit GP. The Cadillac cars looked really strong out there all weekend. I want to say thanks to Tony and Mirza. Shouts out to Megan and Chad and Brandon and the whole team for supporting what we're doing and just putting out some really cool cars. The whole Cadillac pit crew has been really busy with the Blackwing launch coming up, and we're all excited about it. So I want to say thanks there. And shouts out to my friends. There's a lot of things to be celebrating over the next week or two. I guess we got Father's Day and Juneteenth and the French Grand Prix and all kinds of things. So celebration times ahead, and just want to say thanks and good luck and congratulations and all those things to everybody who's looking ahead to that.
Fantastic. We send those same congratulations out, congratulations and all that out as well. That was Todd Curtis here, your 8th place finisher today. Joe?
That's going to wrap up our interviews this evening. So, of course, we want to thank the sponsors as well. Let's not forget Norsled, Save a Husky. For more information, contact Todd Curtis through email at todd@flyinghusky.racing, as well as Flying Husky Racing. Find out more on the web at flyinghusky.racing. Remember, #track days are the best days. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen to find her Bandcamp for more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com or check out our social media. We've got our outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to support the channel, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment, because next week we're going to the finale at Sonoma. That'll be Tuesday, June 22nd at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.